Good morning. I'm Olivia Holas for Boca Magazine, and welcome to our very first coffee break of 2021. I am joined here by Marius Jed, managing partner of Jed Lawyers. It's so great to see you, Marty.
Great to see you, Olivia. It's been a long break and excited to be back together with you.
Likewise, likewise. I guess Happy New Year. Is it too late to say Happy New Year?
No, as long as you're in January, it's still effective, I say, because I still say it too.
That's right. That's awesome. Well, today we're going to be chatting about how to get the best auto insurance coverage.
Sure.
It's one of those things we might not always think about, but there's a lot of different components. So, can you please talk to us a little bit about those components that comprise auto insurance?
Sure. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Florida law and how there's certain requirements under Florida law. But just before I get into that, every year or every 2 years, just myself, I always shop my insurance. It's up to you to make sure you constantly shop your insurance. And there's so many good brokers in Boca, insurance brokers that can handle this for you. And in today's world, everything's online. Geico, Progressive, Allstate, these companies are all online and offer quotes online. But really what's important to know is that in the state of Florida, as we sit here currently today, there are certain minimum requirements to put a vehicle on the road. And those requirements, as we sit here today, are to have your minimum $10,000 of PIP, which is personal injury protection. And what that does is it protects you in the event you're in an auto accident. I'm just going to use you and I, Olivia, in this example. So God forbid I rear-ended you and caused damage to you. The idea of the PIP, also known as no fault, is to allow you to obtain quick and swift medical care and not have to sue me to get paid, to get those reimbursements of those medical bills paid. So the PIP is what covers that. And then the other requirement in the state of Florida is what's called property damage, $10,000 of property damage. And that's to pay for the damage that you may have caused, or in this example, that I may have caused to your physical vehicle. So there's $10,000 of PIP and $10,000 of property damage required. And what's interesting in Florida, there is no mandatory requirement for bodily injury. So it's really important for you to always purchase uninsured motorist. And just by way of explanation, bodily injury is coverage. And the example again is you and me. I rear end you and cause you damage. If I cause damage to you, I'm not required to carry bodily injury. And what bodily injury does, it would protect my financial assets in the event you sued me for damages. So there's currently bills in the Florida legislature, which we can talk about as well, to amend this law. But currently, as we stand here today, those are the two requirements under Florida law to put a vehicle on the road.
So, what would you advise your clients then to look for when they are shopping for their insurance coverage? Would you obviously recommend that they get those two components that are not mandatory in the state of Florida?
I always recommend for anyone, clients, friends, family, that the most important thing to purchase, regardless of that bodily injury, is the uninsured motorist. And the reason that that's so important is, for example, you have two children now, I have three children. Anytime someone is involved in an auto accident, if the other person, which a lot of people in Florida don't have that bodily injury coverage, the UIM, underinsured motorist or uninsured motorist, is what would protect you in the event of that other person not having the full coverage. And I always say to people that is really the most important thing because it applies to your children. And for example, Olivia, let's say your sister's picking up the kids from school and God forbid your kids are in the car with your sister and your sister gets involved in an auto accident. That UIM coverage or UM coverage travels with your children in any other vehicle that they may be in. So in order to protect yourself and your family from the wrongdoings of someone else, it is extremely important to buy uninsured motorists to protect your family. And you just so kind of side note, most insurance companies require you buy the bodily injury coverage in order to qualify for that UIM or uninsured motorist. So in my opinion, the uninsured motorist is the most important component of your coverage because it protects your family. God forbid you or your family get involved in a car accident and the likely event that the other person doesn't have coverage or assets to pay your damages.
And you just mentioned, there's some bills in the legislature. So can you please expand on that, Marty?
Sure. So currently there is a bill to replace PIP with mandatory bodily injury. The problem with the current bill, in my opinion, is the Florida consumers really need this no fault protection because the way the bill is structured now, the way they're trying to change the law, it would require mandatory bodily injury, which means every person in the state of Florida would have that bodily injury coverage, but it doesn't have that PIP component to it. And in Florida, there's so many uninsured motorists or uninsured people, meaning having no health insurance or even no insurance, that if you're involved in a car accident and you need swift medical treatment, there's no way for that consumer to get that. And what's going to happen is the way that the consumer is going to get their money back is by a lawsuit, and that will create more lawsuits and more burden on the court system. So our firm, and we strongly believe that the PIP no fault component is a must keep in any change in the law.
And would you recommend all of us to sit down with our insurance agent every year to review, our current coverage?
Absolutely. If your insurance broker is good at what they do, they should be able to advise you on the different types of coverages. One of the things that most people have never heard of is what's called stacked insurance. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that when you bought your insurance. So I invite everyone, if they're interested, I will do a free review of their insurance. You can email me at mjed@jedlawyers.com, and I'll look at your deck page and I'll tell you what I believe is appropriate. Again, I don't sell any insurance. I don't make any commissions from insurance. I'm not compensated for that, but I do have an understanding of the basic minimums that most people should have. For example, this stacked component is when you have multiple vehicles, if you stack your coverage, you're basically doubling the coverage for short money. And I'm going to give you an example. If you look at your coverages, for example, you have 100, 300. There's a 25/50. And what that means is you have $25,000 of bodily injury coverage, and you have 50,000 in the aggregate. So it would be 25,000 per person in that vehicle, or 50,000 total for that vehicle. If you stack it and you have two vehicles, you now have 50,000 per incident per person, 100,000 for the total vehicle. So it's a really cheap way to increase your coverages without buying umbrellas. And most people don't tell you, they say do unstacked, where in my opinion, doing the stacked is much better, and it's a cheaper way to provide more insurance for you.
That's a really great tip, Marty. I'm definitely going to have to check if I have that, because that's honestly, it sounds like that's a smart thing to do, and it's not super expensive either. So that's really a great tip. Are there any final tips that we didn't really touch upon that you could give our viewers when they're, looking for the appropriate auto insurance coverage?
Sure. Again, make sure you look at that deck page. I've had so many clients come into our office who think they have certain coverages that they just don't have those. And whether it was amended at a renewal or it's something that they didn't know they did not have, it's extremely important to go over your coverages every year, look at that deck page to determine that the coverages are appropriate for you in your current situation, and make sure you review it with your broker every year. It's extremely important that when, in the event, God forbid, you need that coverage or you need to go to that insurance file, that you have the proper coverage, because you'll be very upset if you don't.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's too late, right? You find out exactly what coverage you get because you unfortunately got into a car accident, and at that point you can't go back. So it's something that we need to be very proactive about.
Absolutely.
Last question, it's always a fun question. What is your favorite childhood car, since we're talking about auto insurance?
My favorite childhood car, oh my God. I used to love the 1970 Stingrays, the Corvettes. I'm a little older, I'm 46. So I remember as a kid, those were like the coolest cars, those 70 Stingray Corvettes with the big flare fenders.
Yeah, they don't make them the same way these days.
No, not at all.
Well, thank you so much, Marty. It's always so nice to see you. It's so great to kickstart our coffee breaks again with you. And we've got a whole bunch lined up for this year. So we look forward to getting so much more information from you. And I know our viewers really appreciate your time.
Likewise, Olivia, it's great to be back, and congratulations on your new son.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, thank you again. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful Thursday, a great weekend, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.
See you soon, Boca Mag.